Clara's hand squeezed his more tightly, as if she could feel the turmoil within him. Eduardo asked for silence again, but it took almost a minute for the hall to quiet down. When he finally succeeded, he looked directly at Miguel. "Mr. Tavares, I know this must be overwhelming, but we believe the full truth needs to be told. For you, and in a way, for him too." Miguel couldn't take his eyes off Cassio. The man was still standing, but hunched, as if the weight of guilt was physically bending him. And then, something clicked in Miguel's mind. A memory he had pushed so far away he had almost forgotten it. 2 months before the accusations, Miguel had received a call. It was early morning. He was home, reviewing blueprints for the Heliopolis daycare. The number was unknown. When he answered, he heard heavy breathing on the other end, and then a voice he hadn't heard in years. "Miguel. Cassio." Silence. Then, I wanted to know how you are." Miguel was speechless. 21 years without contact, and Cassio was calling in the middle of the night, as if they had spoken yesterday. He almost hung up. Almost. But there was something in Cassio's voice. Something broken. "Why are you calling?" Miguel asked coldly. "I know you know. About that day. About the drawings." Miguel's heart raced. "And you're calling now? After 2 decades?" "I was afraid," Cassio whispered. "Afraid that if I admitted it, you would destroy me." "I don't destroy people, Cassio. That was always the problem. I build. You're the one who destroys." Cassio sobbed on the other end of the line, the sound of a broken man. I know, Miguel, and I'm so sorry. You have no idea." "Then why are you calling?" There was a long pause, so long that Miguel thought Cassio had hung up, but then he spoke, and his voice was different, harder, desperate. "Because I'm going to have to do it again." Miguel frowned. "Do what again?" "Betray you." And the call dropped. Miguel stared at the phone for several minutes, not understanding. He thought Cassio was drunk, disturbed. 2 months later, when the police raided his office, when newspapers plastered his face as corrupt, when his life fell apart, he understood. Cassio was warning him. The only decent thing he managed to do was warn him. Now, in the hall, looking at that shattered man, Miguel realized something no one else there knew. Cassio had not just betrayed him. Cassio had suffered for it. For 3 years, while Miguel lost everything, Cassio carried the guilt. And perhaps, just perhaps, that was a worse punishment. "Miguel," Eduardo called, getting his attention. "Would you like to say something?" 300 pairs of eyes turned to him, waiting, wanting to hear anger, accusation, revenge. People love to witness raw justice being served. They love to see the villain writhe as the truth devours him. Miguel opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I would like," he said, and his voice trembled, "to speak with Cassio, alone." The hall erupted in protests. "He doesn't deserve your compassion," someone shouted. "Let him burn," another yelled. Eduardo raised his hands, trying to calm everyone, but chaos had taken hold. Clara held Miguel's arm. "Are you sure?" she asked quietly. "You don't have to. I know I don't have to." Miguel interrupted her. "But I want to." She studied him for a long moment, those green eyes searching for something on his face. Finally, she nodded to Eduardo. The Institute's president hesitated, clearly dissatisfied, but nodded back. "There's a private room on the 2nd floor," Eduardo said into the microphone, looking from Miguel to Cassio. "You can use it." The Institute's resident hesitated, clearly dissatisfied, but nodded back nonetheless. "There's a private room on the 2nd floor," Eduardo said into the microphone, looking from Miguel to Cassio. "You two can use it." Initially, Cassio didn't move. He seemed in shock, as if he couldn't believe Miguel really wanted to talk to him, that this wasn't just another attempt to corner him in front of everyone. But then, slowly, he began to walk towards the exit. Miguel followed him. The corridor leading to the elevator was covered in absolute silence. Only the sound of their footsteps, Miguel's worn shoes and Cassio's Italian dress shoes, echoed against the marble. They entered the elevator. The doors closed. They ascended. Cassio looked at the floor. Miguel looked at the ceiling. Neither trusted himself to look at the other yet. The private room was small, elegant. A round dark wood table, 4 upholstered chairs, a window overlooking the illuminated Paulista. Cassio entered first, stood by the window, his back turned to Miguel. Miguel closed the door behind him. They stood like that for almost a minute. 2 men who were once brothers, now separated by an abyss of betrayal and pain. "Tell me, why did you do it?" Miguel finally asked. His voice held no anger. Instead, there was only weariness. "The designs in college I can understand. We were young, stupid, desperate. But 3 years ago, you had a career, money, success. Why destroy my life?" Cassio didn't turn around. "Because I never managed to get over it." "Get over what?" "You." The word came out like a torn confession. "I got that spot, Miguel. I worked for Henrique Almeida Braga. I learned from the best. And you know what I found out? That I wasn't good enough. Never was. Everything I designed was competent, well done, but soulless. Without that intangible quality your projects always seem to possess. That's something that made people cry when they saw a daycare center. That inspired workers to labor with a smile on their faces." He finally turned, and Miguel saw that his face was wet with tears. "I spent 20 years trying to be you. Working for rich businessmen, building mansions, luxury condominiums, corporate offices, making money. A lot of money. And every time I read about you in magazines, about some beautiful social project you had done, about some award you had won, I felt as if someone was sticking a knife into my chest and twisting it." "So you decided to destroy what you couldn't have," Miguel said, and it wasn't a question. "No." Cassio shook his head violently. "It wasn't like that. I swear. When the consortium hired me as a consultant for the South Regional Hospital, I didn't know you were involved. And when I found out, I immediately tried to back out. But they already knew. They knew about our past. They knew about the designs." Miguel felt a chill run through his body. "How did they know?" "Because I told them. Years earlier, drunk one night at a corporate dinner, wanting to feel important. I told them how I got my first big break. I thought it was just a story. But they kept it. And when they needed someone to frame you, they blackmailed me. They said either I helped, or they would expose everything I did in college. They would destroy my career. So you chose to destroy mine. They needed someone to frame you, and they blackmailed me. They said I either helped, or they'd expose what I did in college. They would destroy my career. So you chose to destroy mine." Cassio closed his eyes. "I chose to save myself, as I always do, as I always have." He opened his eyes, looking at Miguel for the first time. "But if it's any consolation, I haven't had a single day of peace since then. Not one. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning, sweating, seeing your face. I'd drink until I passed out just to sleep. My wife left me. My children don't speak to me anymore. And it's not because they know what I did to you. It's because I've become a ghost in my own home." "That call," Miguel said. 2 months before. You called me." Cassio nodded. "I wanted to warn you. It was the only decent thing I could do, and part of me hoped you'd run, disappear, save yourself. But you didn't run, because you never run from anything. You always face it. You were always the brave one. And now?" Miguel asked. "What happens now?" "Now," Cassio let out a bitter laugh. "Now, I face the consequences. Clara has everything documented. The conversations, the emails, the payments I received. She's going to publish it tomorrow, and then I'll be indicted. I'll lose my architect's license. I'll probably go to jail. And you know what? I deserve it." Miguel remained silent, processing. Part of him wanted to feel satisfaction. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Isn't that what they say? But all he felt was emptiness. "Do you have children?" Miguel asked. The question caught Cassio by surprise. "Yes, 2, Lucas and Julia, 13 and 11 years old." "Do they know who I am?" Cassio shook his head. "They know you exist, that we were friends, but they don't know." The rest. Miguel walked to the window, standing beside Cassio, both looking down at the city. São Paulo at night, with its millions of lights, its millions of lives, its millions of stories of redemption and ruin happening simultaneously. I had a son too, Miguel said softly. Did you know? Cassio turned abruptly. No, I didn't. Gabriel, he would be 12 now. Clarice was pregnant when the accusations came, 3 months along. We hadn't told anyone yet. Miguel took a deep breath, fighting the wave of pain that always came when he talked about it. The stress was too much for her. The scandal, the public humiliation, the pressure. She lost the baby in the 5th month. Cassio let out a sound, something between a sob and a groan. She blamed me, Miguel continued. Not for the loss itself, but for everything that led to it. We dissolved our marriage 6 months later. I never saw her again. I heard she moved to the countryside, started her life over. Miguel, You took everything from me, Miguel said, and now his voice trembled with anger for the first time. It wasn't just my career. It wasn't just money. You took my son. You took my wife. You took my dignity. For 3 years, I carried bricks and was called corrupt by men who barely know how to write their own names. For 3 years, I drank until I forgot who I was. For 3 years, I woke up wishing I hadn't. Cassio was crying again, loudly now, without shame. And do you know the worst part? Miguel turned to him. The worst part is that I see you. I see who you are, a coward, a weakling, a man who had every opportunity and threw it all away out of envy. And part of me wants you to suffer, wants you to feel every ounce of pain I felt, wants your children to see you for who you really are. Please, Cassio whispered. It was all out of envy, and part of me wants you to suffer, wants you to feel every ounce of pain I felt, wants your children to see you for what you really are. Please, Cassio whispered. But the other part, Miguel stopped, closing his eyes. The other part remembers the boy who shared lunch with me, the friend who lent me money when my mother was sick, the brother who dreamed with me of building a better country. And that part can't completely hate you, no matter how hard it tries. Cassio fell to his knees. Literally. He collapsed there, on the floor of the elegant room, sobbing. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he managed to say between sobs. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that every day of these 3 years has been hell for me too. That I tried to kill myself twice. That I can't sleep without medication. That every time I see my children, I think of the child you lost because of me. Miguel looked at the broken man on the floor and felt something break inside him. It wasn't compassion, not exactly. It was the understanding that both had been swallowed by the same darkness, just from different sides. He crouched down, getting to Cassio's level. Get up, he said. Cassio looked at him through his tears, confused. Get up, Miguel repeated, extending his hand. Cassio looked at the outstretched hand as if it were an apparition, as if it couldn't be real. But slowly, hesitantly, he placed his hand in Miguel's, and Miguel pulled him up. They stood there, hands still clasped together. I don't forgive you, Miguel said clearly. Not today, maybe never. But I also won't allow you to destroy more lives. Not your children, not yourself. What do you mean? I mean you're coming down with me now. You're going to face those people. You're going to admit what you did, publicly, completely. And then you're going to do something useful with the time you have left before you're indicted. You're going to use your money, your connections, to help rebuild what you helped destroy. How? You're going to finance the construction of the daycare center I was designing when everything fell apart. The one that was never built because no one wanted to work with me anymore. You're going to put your name on it, not as the benefactor, but as the man who owes. And you're going to make it clear to your children why. Cassio stared at him, incredulous. Why are you doing this? Miguel released his hand. Because one of us needs to be better than this. And if it's not me, who will it be? He walked towards the door, but before opening it, he stopped. And Cassio, when all this is over, when you get out of prison, if you do, Don't look for me. Don't try to ask for forgiveness again. Just be the man you should have been from the beginning. For your children. They deserve that. Miguel opened the door and left, leaving Cassio alone in the room, processing what had just happened. Back in the hall, people turned immediately. Clara ran up to him. "What happened? Are you okay?" "I am," Miguel replied, and it was true. For the first time in 3 years, he felt like he could breathe completely. Eduardo approached. "Miguel, if you'd like to say a few words." "I do," Miguel interrupted. "But first, Cassio needs to speak." As if summoned, Cassio appeared at the door. He had dried his tears, splashed water on his face. He still looked like a man walking to his own execution, but there was something different in his eyes, a determination that hadn't been there before. He walked to the microphone, under everyone's hostile gazes. He looked like a man walking to his own execution, but there was something different in his eyes, a determination that hadn't been there before. He walked to the microphone, under everyone's hostile gazes. "Good evening," he began, and his voice wavered. He coughed, tried again. "Good evening. My name is Cassio Drummond, and I was the person who destroyed Miguel Tavares's life. Not because I was forced, not because I had no choice, but because I let envy consume me to such an extent that I preferred to destroy my best friend, rather than admit he was a better man than I would ever be." The hall was in sepulchral silence. "I do not ask for forgiveness," Cassio continued. "Not from him, nor from you. But I will do one thing. I will dedicate every resource I have, every connection I've made to try and repair a fraction of the damage I caused. And I will turn myself in to the authorities tomorrow morning." He looked at Miguel. "You saved me today, even though you owed me nothing, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that gesture." Cassio handed the microphone back to Eduardo and walked towards the exit. No one tried to stop him. No one said anything. And when the door closed behind him, Miguel felt as if a chapter had ended. But then Eduardo spoke, and his words cut through the air like a knife. "There's one more thing you need to know." Miguel looked at him, confused. Clara bit her lip, nervous. Clara's investigation revealed not only who framed Miguel, it also revealed why they specifically chose him. A chill ran down Miguel's spine. The South Regional Hospital Miguel was inspecting. The construction was done with inferior material, outside specifications. The hospital was inaugurated anyway, 2 years ago, and 3 months ago. Eduardo paused, taking a deep breath. A part of the pediatric wing collapsed. 2 children died. 17 were injured. The world stopped. Miguel was right about the irregularities. He was trying to prevent the tragedy, and he was destroyed for it. Miguel felt his knees buckle. Clara held him, but it wasn't enough. He slumped into the nearest chair, his face in his hands. 2 children, dead, because he couldn't stop it, because he was silenced before he could act. And in that moment, Miguel realized that the justice being served that night was only the beginning. Miguel couldn't take his hands from his face. 2 children, 2 lives. He had tried to warn about the inadequate materials, about the ignored specifications, about the dangerous shortcuts. He had sent reports, made complaints to those responsible, insisted on new inspections. And for that, he was destroyed. And while his life crumbled, while he sank into drink and despair, that hospital of cheap materials remained standing. Until it didn't. Clara knelt beside him, her hand on his shoulder. "Miguel, you couldn't have known. You tried to stop it." "Not enough," he whispered through his fingers. "I should have screamed louder. I should have gone to the press, to the authorities, to anyone. They would have destroyed you anyway, even faster. But the children would be alive." The silence in the hall was absolute. 300 people witnessing a man confront the weight of an injustice that had body, name, age. It was no longer about a stained reputation or a ruined career. It was about blood, about futures that would never exist. Eduardo approached, his voice low but firm. "Those responsible for the construction are being prosecuted. Arrest warrants are being issued now. Clara's investigation not only cleared your name, It's bringing down the entire scheme. 17 people have already been indicted. There will be justice, Miguel. There will. Arrests are underway. Clara's investigation cleared his name and is dismantling the entire scheme. 17 people are indicted. Justice is coming, Miguel. It is. Miguel finally lowered his hands. His eyes were red but dry, as if he'd gone beyond tears to a place where pain was too profound to escape. What were their names? He asked. Eduardo hesitated. Miguel, perhaps it's not. What? Were their names? Eduardo looked at Clara, who nodded slowly. She opened her folder, took out a report. Ana Clara Mendez, 7 years old, and Rodrigo Santos, 5 years old. Miguel closed his eyes, etching the names deep within. Ana Clara, 7. Rodrigo, 5. Children who should have been playing, growing, dreaming, sick, vulnerable children needing hospital care. And that hospital killed them. I need to meet the families, Miguel said suddenly, standing up. Miguel, Clara began. I need to, he repeated, an urgency making everyone step back. I must look these people in the eye and say, I don't know what, but I must. Eduardo and Clara exchanged glances. Finally, Eduardo nodded. I can arrange it. Now. Miguel, it's late. Now. It wasn't a request. 30 minutes later, Miguel rode in Clara's car, crossing the city. They'd found the Mendez address. Ana Clara's mother still lived in the East Zone, near the hospital. The Santos family moved to Paraná after the tragedy, seeking to escape memories. Are you sure? Clara asked as she drove. No, Miguel replied, but I need to do it anyway. Hanzo, the house was simple, a narrow 2-story home on a cobblestone street, surrounded by identical dwellings. A light was on inside. Miguel knocked before reconsidering. A woman opened it. She must have been around 40, but she looked 60. Grief ages people in ways that normal time cannot. Can I help you? She asked, wearily. My name is Miguel Tavares. I oversaw the South Regional Hospital as architect. I need to speak about Ana Clara. The woman's face transformed, shifting through surprise, anger, confusion, settling on resignation. She studied Miguel, his face, worn clothes, honest eyes. Come in, she said finally. The living room was small but spotless. Photos adorned the wall, a smiling girl with braids and braces, hugging a stray dog. Ana Clara. In every photo, she smiled as if the world were a wonderful place. My name is Patricia, the woman said, sitting on the worn sofa. Sit down. I want to hear what you have to say. Miguel sat down, his hands trembling. Clara stood silently by the door. I don't know if you followed the news, Miguel began, but for 2 years, I tried to prevent that hospital's construction. I reported irregularities. For that, I was ruined, accused of corruption, of being part of the problem. My life ended. And while I drowned in self-pity, that hospital killed your daughter. Patricia said nothing, only watched. I didn't come to ask for forgiveness, Miguel continued, voice breaking. I have no such right. I came to say I carry Ana Clara and Rodrigo with me now. I'll dedicate every remaining day to ensure no child dies because greedy men value profit over lives. I came to tell you that I carry Ana Clara with me now, and Rodrigo, and that I will dedicate every day I have left to ensure no other child dies because greedy men value profit over lives. Patricia remained silent for so long that Miguel thought she would send him away. But then she spoke, and her voice was surprisingly calm. Did you know Anna was hospitalized for pneumonia? Simple pneumonia. Treatable. She was getting better. She was going to be discharged in 2 days. Tears began to stream down silently. She was excited. She wanted to go home, see her dog, go back to school. And then the ceiling fell. Literally. The ceiling of her room simply collapsed. Miguel couldn't breathe properly. I was in the hallway, Patricia continued. I had gone to get her some juice. I heard the noise. I ran back. The room was just dust and concrete. It took 40 minutes to get her out. She was still alive when they found her, But she died on the way to surgery, 7 years old, my only daughter, dead because someone wanted to save a few riets on construction material. Mom, let me finish. Patricia wiped her tears with the back of her hand. After she died, I wanted to blame someone, anyone. The builders, the politicians, the engineers. I wanted them all to burn in hell. And then I read about you, about how you had tried to stop it, about how they destroyed you for it. And do you know what I felt? Miguel shook his head. Rage. Rage that you hadn't fought harder. Rage that you gave up. Rage that you were getting drunk in some dive bar while my daughter was dying under tons of concrete. The words were knives, but Miguel received them without flinching. He deserved everyone. But then, Patricia continued, then I thought, what would I have done in his place? If they had destroyed my reputation, my family, my life, if I had screamed and no one had listened, would I have been stronger, braver? She met his eyes. Honestly, I don't know. No one knows until they're there. That doesn't absolve me, Miguel said. No, it doesn't absolve you, but it also doesn't make you the villain. She stood up, went to a shelf, and picked up a framed photo. It was Ana Clara on what looked like her last birthday, holding a cake with 7 candles. Do you know what Ana wanted to be when she grew up? Miguel shook his head, unable to speak. An architect. She loved building things. She spent hours with Lego, with blocks, drawing crazy houses. She said she was going to make hospitals that looked like castles, schools that looked like parks. Patricia smiled through her tears. She would have loved to meet you, the Miguel of old, the man who built dignity. Miguel collapsed. It wasn't restrained, polite crying. It was a violent sob, years of pain and guilt and loss exploding all at once. Clara approached, but Patricia gestured for her to stay where she was. She herself sat beside Miguel, placing her hand on his shoulder. Do you want to honor my daughter? She asked softly. Then get up from the ground they threw you onto. Go back to building. Go back to being the man she would have admired. Miguel looked at her through blurred vision. How? I have nothing left, no resources, no credibility. You have your knowledge, your talent, your obstinacy. Patricia squeezed his shoulder. And now you have 2 angels watching over you. Use that. Make it count. When Miguel left that house an hour later, he was a different man. The weight was still there. It always would be. But now he had purpose. Direction. The dead do not return, but the living can make their deaths mean something. In the months that followed, São Paulo witnessed something rare. Redemption in real time. Now there was purpose. A clear direction. The dead do not return, but the living can make their deaths mean something. In the months that followed, São Paulo witnessed something rare. Redemption in real time. Cassio, true to his word, surrendered to authorities and fully financed the complete construction of the daycare center in Heliopolis. But not only that, he used every connection he had to expose other corruption schemes in civil construction. His testimony led to the arrest of 17 people, including 3 high-ranking politicians. He was sentenced to 5 years, but his cooperation reduced the sentence to 3. Miguel returned to work. Not for companies or governments, not immediately. First, he offered free consulting to poor communities, teaching residents how to oversee public works, identify irregularities, and not accept inferior quality. He founded an NGO called Ana and Rodrigo, Popular Oversight, an organization that trained ordinary citizens to be watchdogs for ethical construction practices. The daycare center, financed by Cassio, was inaugurated 1 year after that night at the Esplanada Grand Hotel. Miguel personally designed every inch, and at the entrance, a plaque read, Ana Clara Mendez and Rodrigo Santos Daycare, built with dignity, in memory and love. Patricia was present at the inauguration, and when they cut the ribbon, she embraced Miguel for a long moment and whispered, she would have loved it. Clara continued her investigation, expanding into other sectors. She won the ESSO Journalism Award for her series exposing corruption in civil construction. In her acceptance speech, she dedicated the award To men like Miguel Tavares, who pay the price of honesty, and to children like Ana Clara and Rodrigo, who remind us why the struggle is worth it. 5 years after that night, Miguel was on a construction site in Paraisópolis, not as a worker, but as the chief architect of a public housing project. His name had been cleared, his license restored, and now he was back doing what he always knew how to do: building dignity. It was early morning, the sun beginning to appear over the crowded houses of the favela. Miguel held blueprints in his hand, explaining something to a young engineer who watched him with eyes bright with admiration. She was 23 years old and had sought out Miguel specifically, saying he was the reason she had chosen civil engineering. "See this column here?" Miguel pointed to the design. "It might seem like I'm exaggerating with the thickness, but we cannot skimp on structure. Never, not an inch, not a single reel, because lives depend on it," the young woman completed. Miguel smiled. Exactly. He looked around, workers starting their day, the community waking up, children running to the newly built school next door. And for a moment, just a moment, he allowed himself to feel something akin to peace. His phone vibrated. A message from Patricia. "Anna would be 13 today. I stopped by the daycare this morning. It's beautiful. Thank you for keeping her alive this way." Miguel typed back, "She's the one who keeps me alive." He put his phone away and returned to work. There was a foundation to finish, walls to raise, a future to build. And this time, he knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't just building houses. He was building what he had always wanted to build since that first day at FAU USP, when he was just a boy from Paraisópolis with dreams too big for his pocket. He was building a country where children like Ana Clara could grow up safe, where men like Cassio would have to think twice before choosing profit over ethics, where architects like him wouldn't be punished for doing the right thing. He was building dignity. Be safe. Where men like Cassio would have to think twice before choosing profit over ethics, where architects like him would not be punished for doing the right thing. He was building dignity. And as the sun rose over São Paulo, illuminating the construction site where a man who was once invisible now commanded with gentle authority, there was something poetic about the scene. Because Miguel Tavares had learned the hardest truth of all, that sometimes we need to be completely destroyed to find out what we are truly made of. And he was made of concrete and hope, of pain and purpose, of falling and rebuilding. He was made of the same things he always wanted to build: dignity that doesn't collapse no matter how much weight you put on it.